Welcome to Observations, an open conversation about women's health. This is a space where physicians, patients, and other experts can sit down and have honest, evidence-based dialogue that cuts through the media bias and brings clarity back to maternal care and how we can care for both patients, mother and preborn child. With each episode, we will have real stories, real science, but also real questions about women's health today. From clinical insights to lived experiences, to aligned perspectives, and yes, also respectful disagreements. This is our goal, to bridge the gap between physician and patient, to empower informed decision-making, and bring back and elevate compassionate, fact-driven care. Now, a quick note before we dive in. Not every guest on the podcast is going to represent the views or positions of Applog, but we believe that having open and honest conversations are going to make us better. So, grab your coffee, settle in, and let's get into today's observation.
Welcome to Observations. I'm Dr. Susan Bain, and I'm your host for today. I'm so excited to have Rachel Owen, CEO of Infinite Worth, and also an incredible sponsor for Applog's MBEC conference. Having spent many years as an executive director of several pregnancy medical clinics, Rachel understands the love and passion that goes into saving preborn lives across the country. But she also knows the challenges of reaching women who face an unplanned pregnancy. With time and determination, Infinite Worth created a 24/7 nurse chat line to offer free resources that will help women who have an unplanned pregnancy to get the care that they need at pregnancy centers, take that care to the next level for today's Gen Z. Today, we'll be discussing Infinite Worth's mission and how Applog and Infinite Worth align, how their mission evolved with the rise of abortion pills, and how the nurse chat line is a direct way to combat the abortion industry. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Having me. I'm so blessed to be here and get to have this great conversation with you. You're one of my heroes, so I just wanted you to know that.
Well, I sure appreciate that. I think there are so many people that wear capes in the pro-life movement and are
Yes.
heroes. And I'm excited to have you as one of those on our program today. So let's talk about Infinite Worth. Tell the audience a little bit about it and how you got started with it.
Yeah, so Infinite Worth has been around for 3 years, so it's relatively kind of a baby in the nonprofit pro-life world, but it has had a huge, significant impact. What we are is that 24/7 nurse chat. So, what we do is we partner with pregnancy centers, and we really are an extension of who they are. So, we wrap around them with that 24/7 care so that they can rest at night, right? And they can get back up and do the hard work that they do every day on the front lines. And so, what we're doing is we put this beautiful pop up widget on their website and then also on other websites. We have some that have put it on billboards, but we have that chat number for each center that we've partnered with, which now we're about over 700 locations across the country. And what we do is as we're doing that, when that young Gen Z comes to that website on her phone, she sees that pop up. Are you considering having an abortion? Would you like to talk to a nurse? And then that nurse educates her to the reason she'd want to come into the center. Because a lot of these girls have been told on TikTok and social media that this is easy. You can just take the abortion pill.
Mm.
It's just like a hard period or taking a Tylenol, and that's not the truth, right? We know that's
Right.
not the truth. And so there's several things she needs to know before she takes that abortion pill. Also, there's been research that she wants to talk to a medical professional. She doesn't want to talk to an abortionist or an options counselor. She wants to have someone to talk to that has an understanding of who she is as a woman, right? Well, we have these precious nurses on there who just educate them. Hey, you need to know how far along you are before you take that pill. Have you had an ultrasound or a pregnancy test even? And you know if you're pregnant, you need to know if it's inside of the uterus, right? Is the pregnancy even viable? And so the nurses just gently educate her and then get her an appointment immediately in that pregnancy center, um, as soon as we can. And it has been very powerful to just see these girls have immediate attention. So the heart behind this is to really, like you were saying, Susan, that really it's about meeting that Gen Z where they're at, and they are on the phone. They spend 16 hours a day texting. It's literally their love language. That's where they feel the
Wow.
most comfortable.
Yeah.
So if we're going to reach the next generation, we have to be where they're at, and it's on their phone, right? It's That's where they're at, and honestly, I was a center director for 15 years over several centers in my precious little state. And we started to see the number of clients coming in go down. You know, we were reaching the millennial really well, seeing lots of progress in our college communities where we were established. And we started to see that the Gen Z weren't coming in the door. And so we really had to sit back and evaluate. Oh my goodness, how do we do this job well? And that's really where the heart of Infinite Worth came out of.
Yeah, I think you've said so much in that introductory comments that you just had. I think one of the most important things is you saw a problem. You were no longer having those patients show up.
Mhm.
And what is your thought related to that and the rise of basically unlimited access to abortion drugs? Do you feel like that there was a correlation there? Because we know that women can and men unfortunately can access them online without any medical care, no ongoing medical care, that's for sure.
It's mind-blowing all the dangerous things that we see that are going on out there. Um, it's it's really overwhelming. You know, in our state where I'm at, actually, we've been at 75% usage of the abortion pill for abortions for about 10 years. And that's been because of Planned Parenthood used our state as a test plot for their telehealth abortion. So we've been fighting abortion a long time with the abortion pill and this at-home abortion thing. And so when Roe versus Wade was overturned, I tell you, my heart ached because I knew we weren't ready for what was gonna happen, and I knew the pregnancy centers weren't ready for this battle because the battle was gonna change from
Yes.
the even the sidewalk at the abortion clinic, but it was gonna change drastically to in the home usage, and we've seen really, intense things at the center, here in our state, and here what we would see is girls would bring their babies back in, and they would say, "No one told me I was going to see a baby in the toilet." No one told me that it was going to be so painful. I've had even men come back in and say, "Hey, my girlfriend's never taken the abortion pill again, but we need a surgical abortion this time because we'll never do that again." Or just some of the things that were just. I knew that our country wasn't ready for this, and we're seeing it now. Unfortunately, that we're kind of been blindsided. And this advancement of the abortion pill is not only harming women physically. Obviously, you know, 1 in 10 have serious complications that need medical follow-up and ER. But we're seeing a huge emotional damage done to these women. I know this is a tough subject, but you know, they're not prepared for what they're going to see. Right? They're not prepared for the pain they're going to go through. And you get online and you Google all this, or you get on TikTok and, you know, or Planned Parenthood's website or the abortion pill website, and they're like, oh, just watch a movie, you'll be fine. Here's some tea, read this book on feminism, and it'll all be great. And it's just overwhelming. And women are being told, you know, that they can, you know, oh, it's no big deal. You can go to work. And we get text from girls. We get text from girls who are at work, and they're like, what do I do? There's a baby in the toilet, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And it's overwhelming how much misinformation there is and just how abusive, really, honestly, this pill is. And then how there's no regulations. I mean, I know this isn't a political show, but it's really heartbreaking to be on the other end. We've had over 400,000 conversations with women in that have been vulnerable, right? So we have a lot of data and we see a lot of stuff, and it is so damaging, and we've got to fight it.
Yeah, I think as a doctor myself and recognizing the importance of ultrasound to determine
Mhm.
gestational age prior to taking the abortion drugs, to make sure a woman has an intrauterine pregnancy and not a tubal or ectopic pregnancy. What I really value about your hotline is that, as you've mentioned, it's nurses. So they're working within their scope of practice to empower women with information. And what they're often getting on social media is that there isn't a need for an ultrasound, that
Mhm.
that can be bypassed. And that is just not true. And it's not safe. One of the things I tell women when they come to the pregnancy centers where I work is, as I'm counseling them after their ultrasound, and they say to me, um, I, I thank you for this information, but I still think I'm going to move forward with my abortion. One of the things I'm able to tell them is, as an OBGYN, I take care of two patients, and I want both of you to receive health care. If if you do have an abortion, I know one of my patients will die, but I don't want you to die if you make that choice to have an abortion. And a hotline like this allows women to recognize the importance of that ultrasound, of that individualized, informed consent that allows her to know the risks, the benefits, and the alternatives. And they just aren't getting that in from their stories to me in the abortion clinics, and they most definitely don't get it if they order the drugs online. My last patient who was trying to stop her abortion, um, she actually had the abortion drugs for over 6 months. She was just holding
Yeah.
on to.
Yeah.
Um, and so we've got these drugs that have a black box warning. They're high risk, dangerous drugs, and women are literally walking into our pregnancy centers with them in their back pocket.
Yep.
They've already ordered them, and I do think there is this educational movement that is happening, that women are realizing that other women are getting really sick and harmed when they take these abortion drugs. And what they're doing is, I see them coming into our centers more because they're like, I don't want that to be me. They want the information. And so I think it's wonderful that you have said 400,000 calls you have gotten in 3 years.
100,000.
We know there are close to 3,000 pregnancy centers across the country. Um, and you're in about 700, is what you're doing new to the pregnancy center movement, or there are other groups doing something similar? What makes Infinite Worth different?
Yeah, well, what makes Infinite Worth different is that nurses are answering these chats and it's live humans, right? Live nurses. Now, there's some organizations in the last year that have started using like AI chatbots and things like that. So we're seeing that come up. And that's nice and good and all, but it's interesting. We've done a client survey now of about seven. I think we're about 600. I think we're over 600, somewhere in there, um, clients that we surveyed and asked them, would you rather talk to a nurse or a chatbot? And even though generally Gen Z like chatbots, they're not opposed to them at all. They actually think they're kind of cool, but they love talking to a live nurse, especially when they're in the middle of a very intense situation, right? And they have some really overcoming circumstances in their lives, and frankly, nurses are the most trusted profession. the last 30 years. I mean, no offense to doctors, but nurses are the most trusted profession, and they still are, and in this generation, it resonates with them, right? To talk to
Uh,
a nurse, to have that care. And so in our nurses, one thing that we do that makes us different from others is that, or chatbots even, right? Or AI chatbots, is that we really put in an extra relational factor, is that we know
Right.
that we have to have that relationship for her. This generation, bless it. My heart just goes out to them because they were raised on the phone. eh, they have this disconnect for relationships. They have a hard time with relationships. They have a hard time with eye contact. And actually, they have a phone phobia. They don't like to actually communicate with the phone. They prefer texting because that's stressful. I have a 16-year-old daughter that I actually made her make a phone call, like make a phone call to
Right.
get a haircut appointment. And she got off the phone. She's like sweating bullets. She's like, that was the hardest thing I ever did, mom. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we got to get some phone etiquette going on here. But
Right.
like it's really they're missing that eye contact, that love, that touch that they desperately need, which is probably why they're in the situation they're in. And so we want to start the relational part where they're comfortable, right? And that's the
Right.
difference there, is we're starting that relationship on the phone where they feel comfortable, and then we're educating them, loving on them, having that relationship, and then they feel more like going into the centers, because they're not going into the centers if they don't have a relationship. Actually, they're so into relationship, if somebody asks them to go to the movies or to do whatever Gen Z do, they're going to go do that because it's a relationship before they'll miss your appointment. It's not that they're disrespectful, and a lot of people, trash this generation for being disrespectful. It's just that we really haven't taught them regular etiquette because they've spent most of their time looking at this thing, right?
Yeah.
And so they value relationships. So if you care about them and you answer that chat immediately and you put thought into that conversation, the more likely they are to show up right at the center. And if they know that the center cares for them. So that's what we are. We're just that extension of that center. I love pregnancy center directors. They are my heroes. I love that every worker there that works at them, all the volunteers, they put so much time into loving girls well. And I love representing them with the nurses. Our nurses love it. We have, I don't know if I've said this already, but we have over 52 nurses across the country working for us now. And we're working hard to bring in more funds, because we are a nonprofit, working hard to bring in more funds to hire more. This year, with our rate of growth, we will probably reach over 1,000 centers that are partnered with us. That's the goal. And so, we've got to raise $5 million to pay those nurses, because nurses aren't cheap, right? Like, so, but,
Right. They're highly
but
qualified, so
they're
they need to be
highly
paid,
qualified.
especially when they're working 24/7. So you got
Yes.
night shift.
We got night shift. And they pour their heart into these precious ones. One of the things that we recently started was a prayer warrior program, where we have a prayer warrior on with the nurse praying for those clients.
Mm.
And we see our schedule rate go up. It's amazing to see that. And so that's really amazing too.
Yeah.
But we're able to schedule 46% of those abortion determined, or in the middle of an abortion, in the center, which is fantastic, because these are normally girls. Also, keep in mind, like, they don't want to come into the center, they don't want to call, they just want to know information off of the phone, right? They just want to
Yep.
get their information, so they don't want to go in. And so these are we call them bonus clients. They're not going to the centers anyway. So, but we're able to get 46% into the centers, and that is exciting to us. And of course, we're working hard to do more education to get them into the centers.
Right. So when we
So,
think about competence in healthcare, in the past it was always technical skills only, which technical skills matter. So the information your nurses are sharing matters. But also, what we have found in the research has clearly shown this, that part of being a competent healthcare professional clinician is also having compassionate care and relationships. So that sounds like What really is the beauty is you have the technical competence combined with this relationship to give great care. So when we talk about relationship, one of the things I'm excited about is the fact that MBEC, our national conference at APLOG, is coming up, and you're partnering there with us and as one of our sponsors. So thank you. And we have hundreds of healthcare professionals who practice life affirming medicine at MBEC, and one of my hearts and passions in the pro life medical community is to address the gap in medical directors across the country. I think one of the most common phone calls we get at APLOG is from an executive director who needs a medical director. Most states that's a doctor, but sometimes it's advanced practitioners. And one of the things I'm excited about is we have started a special interest group at APLOG to really recruit and equip healthcare professionals to be part of the medical director community and have a place where we can network and connect. And because I think that's been missing in the pro life movement is a place for medical directors to learn to how to be doctors, how to be practitioners in pregnancy centers. So, what excites you about MBEC and going there and being a sponsor?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I am so excited about you guys reaching out and training and creating more medical directors for pregnancy centers. Because as a director of pregnancy center for years, that was my biggest hang up is you just would have to find a doctor willing and then you'd have to teach them. And so here I am teaching
Right.
how to do this inside of a center and it because it's a little different. It's, you have your
It
standing
is.
orders. It's just a little bit different. You don't have to be there. And it's kind of run like a nursing home a little bit because there's, there are nurse care plans and your standing orders and all of that. And so I just really appreciate your effort in that. That's one of the things that gets me so excited because we need good doctors wrapping around not only the centers, but the women in the centers that are coming in
Right.
and center, the clients, the patients. And so I'm excited about that. But I'm really excited about the APR aspect of that too, and training those doctors in that, and just what that does for that girl that's on the chat line with us, that's in the middle of it and
Right.
regrets that, right? And she regrets the decision that she just made, and how fast we can get her. And as we have more and more on the chat line, I'm excited that there's going to be more doctors to refer to. I'm just that's the thrill. And that's one of the reasons that we are a sponsor of you guys and that we're going to be there at MVAC is because um, I I just feel like the medical community holds the key to the pro-life movement, and it really is in that education of caring for your patients, and what happens in that beautiful relationship between the doctor and the patient. And I was there last year and was so blessed at so many doctors who care deeply about life and about women and the future of our country and the healthcare in our country and the directions it's going. I was just so blessed. The research there, everything was just top notch. I was so encouraged. Sometimes when you're in the pro life movement, you can get under it a little bit and feel a little like this is an uphill battle all the time. Well, really, it is. You're climbing a mountain, a very steep mountain at times. And it was so encouraging to me just to see so many people, standing for life and being vocal and educating each other on it and the good conversations that happened. I was just really blessed. So that's why we're there this year with in full force to supporting you guys. I want to see more of this. I want to see more doctors with young doctors. I had so much fun with some of the young doctors there.
Absolutely.
Yes, had snacks and sat in the hot tub with them. It was so much fun just to hang out with them and hear their hearts and how pro-life they are, and even some doctors from different countries. So I was blessed, and I just want to be part of what you guys are doing because what we're doing on the chat line is critical, and what we're doing with the nurses and in their scope of practice I just am excited to have you guys feed into us and us feed into you, and to really collaborate. And we're doing some really neat projects at Infinite Worth. We're moving forward on a care kit to really to be that almost that 11th hour push when that girl says, no, I'm going to leave and go have this abortion anyway, and just wrapping around her. And we have some wonderful pro-life doctors who have got behind that, and who are, truly caring for women who are in the middle of that decision, which you're very familiar with, doctor. You understand that moment. You just described that moment
Right.
with that girl who's made that decision, and just being able to fully inform her, making sure she has informed consent, because unfortunately the abortion pill company that she just ordered from India is not giving her is not giving her
Right.
that informed consent. And so it's really exciting about what's coming up and the next steps, and I'm so excited to partner with you guys in this.
So, Rachel, you mentioned that you all have had 400,000, approximately that many encounters. I can only imagine the stories that women share with all of you. Are there any that really stick out? One that maybe you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, would love to. Thank you for asking that question. I was going to forget to say it. But there is one story that sticks out that's so precious to all of our heart. And it was the first baby that was saved with the chat line in conjunction with the pregnancy center and that partnership. And it really shows what we get to do on a chat line. And so this young woman texted in at 3 a.m. She had the abortion pills on her nightstand, and she was really overwhelmed. She had a couple little boys, and she was living in her grandparents' basement and overwhelmed at her circumstances, and thought she met Mr. Right, right? And she's texting in, and she couldn't sleep because women don't sleep at night when they're overwhelmed. And the nurse just starts chatting with her. Because she's Googling around on the websites, and she found the nurse, and the nurse just educated her to the reason to come to the center, and that was to have an ultrasound to know how far along she is, and to see if it was inside of the uterus. Is it even viable, right? And so she said, I can have you in for an appointment at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Will that work for you? And she's like, okay, great. I can drop the kids off at school. I can come in. I can get this figured out, what I'm going to do next. So then she was able to go back to sleep, right? Because she was
Right.
stressed, but now she just set that aside. And so she went to the pregnancy center the next day, had that ultrasound, and saw the baby on the ultrasound. And it was a beautiful 10-week baby. And she was overwhelmed. She's like, what am I thinking? I love children, right? I love children. I wasn't. So she walked out of that pregnancy center, our partner center, choosing life. And then she went back home. And then that night at 1 a.m., she starts texting with the nurse again. And the father of the baby is trying to shove those pills down her throat. The coercion that happens, as we know, 60% of abortions are coerced, right? So you really have to have that relationship with that girl to be able to enter in where she's at in her life. Like, because we know that there's other extenuating circumstances pressuring her into abortion a lot of times. And
Sure.
so, but because we had that relationship with her, she gets back online. She finds the nurse chat. She starts texting with the nurse. Probably was a different nurse. I can't remember, but it didn't matter because that nurse still had, she still had a relationship with us. And she said, hey, he's forcing me to take these pills. What do I do? And the nurse just encouraged her, um, encouraged her in the fact that this is illegal. It's
Right.
illegal for him to do this to you. Would you like us to call the police? Because we could do that for you. Or how would you, we, and so it was so beautiful because the nurses were just able to encourage her. She stood up against him and pushed back on that. And now she has a beautiful baby. So just that's one of the stories, and how the relationship takes place. And also, that's the average girl we see. That's really average. Maybe not so much the coercion part, but really, she's needing and desperate for relationships. And that's how also shows us how we work with the pregnancy centers. We're there, we're flowing, and it's very transparent. And what it does, Dr. Bain, is it creates continuity of care. And that's so important that we're able to have that relationship, hand that girl off to them. The beautiful thing about our platform that we use is that the center, because we're a HIPAA compliant platform, the center can see the whole conversation
Mhm.
because we're with them in this. We've partnered with them. And so they know what's coming in the door. They know if they need to be prepared for a domestic violence situation or trafficking situation, or they can just see that conversation. So we're handing that client off and that patient off in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that story, Rachel. It's sadly very common that women are pressured and coerced and don't feel like they are safe to make the decision to save their baby's life. And it's great that she gained the confidence with the first phone call to make that second phone call. Well, we're so excited to have you, and thank you so much for your time sharing what Infinite Worth is about, sharing, emphasizing that it is quality healthcare these women receive when they talk to the nurses. And it's also that relationship they're really longing for in that moment of extreme vulnerability. And
Mhm.
I am excited that you're partnering with Applog, and I couldn't agree more. I've been to many, many medical conferences over the last 30 years of practice in medicine, and MBAC is one of the finest. The quality of the plenary speakers, the breakout sessions, the conversations in the hallway. And Donna Harrison, our former CEO, always has said, courage is contagious. And when you are there, you realize that you're not alone. And life affirming medicine is good medicine. And
Yes.
it takes care of both of our patients. And it recognizes that death is not a therapeutic modality. And the purpose of medicine is health and healing. And so that's what we do with both our patients is we want them to both receive outstanding health care. And we try to help this generation and that future one learn how to do that well. So thank you again, Rachel, for being with us today, and look forward to seeing you at MBAC.
Yes. That's great. Thank you for having me.
We hope that you enjoyed today's episode of Observations and that it broadened your perspective on women's health and how we can care for both patients, mother, and preborn child. If you like this episode, make sure to give us a 5-star review where you can find your podcasts. Make sure that you like this on YouTube and subscribe to our channel for more episodes coming up. And if you have any suggestions on any topics that we should cover or guests that we should have on, make sure that you email us at media@applog.org. Again, thank you for joining us for today's observation, and we'll see you in our next episode.